You're listening to the Digital Deep Dive, where we tackle the newest trends, strategies, and pain points shaping growth across the digital landscape. From Amazon and D2C to international expansion, join our host and e-commerce leaders across multiple industries for in-depth discussions on how to maximize your brands in the digital arena. Now, here's your host, Aaron Conant.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Digital Deep Dive podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Conant, and today we're going to do a deep dive on the incrementality behind retail media. So a lot of questions out there spinning around retail media as a whole. Everybody knows that every retailer out there is jumping into it. Amazon seems to really be working, and after that, it's a great big question mark. And so I have a longtime friend, Kevin Weiss, over at Skai now. We've known each other for, 6 or 7 years now. It's pretty crazy. But just going to do a deep dive. They're leaders in this space across the board. But Kevin, I'll kind of kick it over to you if you want to do, an intro on yourself and Skai. And if I refer to it as Kenshu, that's just because I'm old school. But
you and me both. It's a good thing. Great to join you. Longtime friend indeed, and awesome to be on the podcast. I've been at Skai, formerly Kenshu, for 3.5 years now. I've worn a few hats since I joined, currently VP of Retail Media. And I work on a number of different projects, including pursuits for net new business, upsell and expansion with existing clients, then go to markets with strategic partners. And so I work with product teams, sales, client success, business development, publisher partnerships, et cetera. And so I'm kind of right in this sweet spot as Skai is this API partner with $8 billion in spend flowing through our platform, what's moving and shaking across the industry. And so really fortunate position to be in. My background, just for context on where I'm coming from, joined a bootstrapped marketing agency back in 2014. I was a couple co-founders. We grew the thing over 5 years, became a partner at BWG, hit the, I think, 182 on the Inc. 500 list, and we got acquired in 2020, just before the pandemic. So that's a little bit where I cut my teeth in all things Amazon, and parlayed into now the more fragmented, broader, growing retail media ecosystem that we live in today. So,
yeah, awesome. So retail media, I know you guys have done a bunch of research. I mean, you literally live in this space,
sure.
But everybody wants to know about incrementality. I don't mind spending it as long as it's increasing sales. I mean, it's advertising. That's what you want, right? But, we've chatted about this just a little bit, but I just want to pull a couple threads there as we go along. But I mean, shoot questions my way as well. But, you want to talk a little bit about some of the research you guys have done?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, incrementality for in retail media, it's been a theme or an element of it since the origin. I mean, incrementality, it's like there's a marketing definition that I think is established in the industry, like before retail media became kind of like this fourth wave of digital advertising, whatever wave they would call it as. I think what's happened, and some of this is from a lot of work that went into a thought leadership piece with the Path to Purchase Institute that we did on incrementality for retail media back in May. Some other articles and thought leadership since then is, incrementality in retail media has sort of hit this perfect, sweet spot of timing, right? You've got an industry that's generally rife with FOMO because it moves very quickly. There's a lot of, things changing and white hat, gray hat, black hat on Amazon that's happened for a while. So you've got this kind of already existent FOMO theme within retail media. Then you've got, market correction in the economy, kind of at a macro level, where profit is, exceedingly the focal point for everybody in the game. Whereas maybe you were showing top line growth, now capital's dried up. And so it's all about, profitable growth. So this convergence of all these things, as well as retail media just hitting a maturity point where the budgets are big enough where, CFOs and boards are like, hold on, we have lack of measurement. We have inconsistency between these all. What are you actually spending on? I want to show the connection to profit right? So like that's the
It's so
conversion.
true. I mean, well, to be fair, the marketers, the pandemic hits, and about a year in, they just start throwing money at marketers, expend capital anywhere on any kind of digital marketing, just make something work. And so they've been doing it, and then all of a sudden, like you're saying, wait a minute, what are you spending it on? Like some accountability.
Yeah, somebody described it as like, e-com, like selling on Amazon. It was like you had a few people like working in their basements, just slinging products on Amazon and hacking, the algo and all this stuff. And I mean, it's really interesting to see, Amazon evolve over the last, decade here, which we've been fortunate to do. But I think now, right, it's much more mature, right? People are breaking down silos. There's more top to bottom communication. There's blueprints on how to scale the model. And then again, maturity, where there's just some things that don't work like they used to, right? It's about, an omni-channel presence. It's the full funnel, and retail readiness, is a prerequisite. There's just kind of more understanding and knowledge in the space than there was before, when it was regular for you or me, people listening, like you'd have to go into a board and explain, what a sponsored product ad was. You'd have to explain, like, here's where, this ad shows up, and here's what happens when a customer searches for this keyword. Look how your product's not there, but your competitor's is. Like, we had to like explain that in like board meetings and stuff. Now we don't have to do that anymore. At least I don't, thank goodness. But so again, that's the convergence. So kind of fast forward to, today, and, riffing on the thought leadership work that we've been doing. I think this theme of incrementality for retail media, it reached a boiling over point for us, where if you talk to Skai customers, many of them will say, we're doing incrementality for retail media, and Skai is the way that we're doing it. And of course, you could substitute Skai with another, competitor of ours, or, you're just advertising in Amazon, and they'll say it's incremental. Like, the thing that we have to recognize with incrementality in retail media is it is subjective. It's not a just purely a data science backed thing like exists if you were to go talk to somebody who has been in, paid search marketing for the last decade, and you say, we're going to run some incrementality tests. They're going to have more familiarity and experience with the data science behind it. Maybe they dabble in data science. They work closely with a data science team or partner. They're running MMM. They're doing things that have like a rigor and a methodology to them. But in retail media, the prevailing understanding of incrementality is subjective. So what I believe is incremental is true, right? Like, it's my opinion, so it's true. And what you believe is incremental, well, that's your opinion, that's subjective. So whatever your threshold is for meeting that, like proving it, totally up to you. And that is something that I don't know if I've really seen in the market. So I'm kind of proud that a lot of people that, worked out with this have helped like articulate that, because it's all too common for, the FOMO market that exists of like agencies and, solopreneurs and point solution competitors and stuff to be like, we've got the secret sauce, we've got it figured out. When in reality, like a lot of incrementality, it's totally subjective in retail media. And so that's kind of the first, foundational element of it, which we can talk about a little bit and kind of break that down more. But that's kind of the first piece.
What is that threshold? Is it just your own personal threshold? Is that what you're saying? Like, is it company by company? Or is it just executive by executive?
It is.
I think that's not necessarily the answer that people want. People will want to say, somebody's figured out a way to pinpoint the exact amount of incrementality plus or minus 5%.
Yeah.
But what you're saying is what most people would sit back and be like, yeah, it makes sense. It's exactly how I feel.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's completely subjective.
It is. And so because it's subjective, a lot of people in the market are like so relieved that somebody has figured it out and seems to have the confidence and the likely backing and endorsement of data scientists, people using AI and machine learning and, technology, as opposed to just my subjective feeling of it. They feel relieved that, I can get incrementality because this company has figured it out and they've got the smart people. When in reality, they, more often than not, whether it's a person within an organization or a particular company or a solution provider, service provider, they've just come to a conclusion on what it is that meets their threshold, and they're confident and happy enough to promote that in the market. Sometimes they have a vested interest in like putting that in the market because they're going to get business from it. And I think you have to scrutinize that a bit, because in retail media, you have an ecosystem that is an imperfect ecosystem for incrementality. We don't have all the data. There's walled gardens. And again, we can kind of break this down and kind of go into different, more bite-sized pieces, but it's not a perfect environment for it. So again, the relief is kind of what tends to be there, and why a lot of folks jump on board with solutions that claim to have, figured out, crack the code, so to speak, which has been happening since you could do keyword targeted giveaways back in, 2014 and rank number one. Like, they still seek those types of.
Let's go back to coupons. Let's go back to the 80s.
So easy. Yeah.
Right? Sprint of coupons, you get direct attribution as to exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
One of the big questions that pops up. So thank you for that point. That is fantastic. I think everybody's like, whew, that's the way I feel. I feel better now.
I think disappointed too. Like, I think,
for sure.
We're holding out hope that like, I'm going to tell you something that is going to, make it all better. And all you got to do is, sign up with us, or, follow these steps, and it'll work for anybody. Like, that is sort of like the letdown. The silver lining, of course, is that there are strategies that, while it's a subjective threshold of proof, there's some viability to it. Like, and we can kind of go into those. And the other silver lining is we are turning a corner in terms of maturity of the ecosystem to actually do data science backed incrementality testing, where you can have the smartest people in the room, help engineer, orchestrate these tests, and show results with statistical significance, like confidence levels that this is going to happen again and again and again if you replicate it. And so we are getting to that paradigm with the advent of things like Amazon Marketing Cloud, which is exposing data we never had before. I wouldn't say that it's like a silver bullet. And again, we can talk about this. But I do want to kind of put those things, instead of somebody being like, well, click, they said incrementality is not possible. That's not the message here. The first piece, again, is just like wrapping your head around the subjective element of it. And then let's kind of build on that.
Yeah, I mean, and think about how far we've come just in the past few years with the Amazon Marketing Cloud, the amount of data that's in there. There's not a perfect multi-touch attribution tool. If we find one, it's an instant billion-dollar company for sure. But yeah, I mean, I think you're right. The point here isn't that incrementality isn't possible to analyze or track. It's just, it's not going to be 100% accurate. So it's not to say it's not worth doing or tracking or following, but you're going to be able to do it. And then everybody's going to have a different level of subjectivity around, hey, this was successful or not. And my threshold is here and yours is here. So,
yeah, you asked about the people. So I kind of wanted to like double click on that, because so we have historically at Skai sold to two like user personas. So one of them is like the hands-on keyboard user who's managing these campaigns. So they're in Amazon, they're in Walmart Connect, they're in Criteo, et cetera, et cetera. The other persona that we typically serve is the functional lead. They oversee a team of hands-on keyboard. Maybe some are offshore, some are domestic. They've got fractional this, fractional that. Somebody does a little bit of ads management, a little bit of catalog, a little content, a little branding, whatever. So those are kind of the groups that we serve. We do increasingly serve media executives, and then it's a smaller cohort, of customers that use us, so that we interface with. But data scientists is the other. And so one way to kind of help wrap your head around this subjective element is how does a hands-on keyboard user, define incrementality, and what KPIs are they looking at as the proof points? So like if I can improve, new to brand or share of voice or iROAS. The functional lead is going to have maybe a slightly different one. That's going to be something like top line sales or gross margin, potentially tacos. Then you got the media executive. They're looking at share, contribution profit, contribution margin. The data scientist is going to be looking for maybe something even more simplistic, maybe something more advanced. So maybe it's just like total sales for the data scientist. Maybe it's, long-term value, like customer long-term value, which I think is a better way to describe LTV as opposed to lifetime. So they each have different like KPIs, right, that they're trying to affect or that they're trying to measure success by. And so if you're calibrating that subjective element to the persona, it starts to make a lot of sense. What a lot of people do, unfortunately, they wear a lot of hats, right? That's what I said in my intro, right? I wear a lot of hats. So incrementality for me is a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And depending on the organization or the context, like what data is available for a given ad type, et cetera, it comes in all these flavors, right? So that's kind of unpacking that a little bit further. We can, zoom in on any of those, of course, but I think it's really interesting when you start to put it in its place and try to organize it, codify it, right?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things people are trying to understand, because you mentioned plugging in, right? And there's Criteo, there's Amazon, everyone's you can be either on Target, there's Walmart.
Yep.
Where should people be playing? Because I think everybody agrees Amazon, yes, right? They're so mature at this point in time. It's so refined. It's I would say a good platform. Not as much data being shared as a lot of people want, but it's probably the best retail media network out there right now that people can engage in. But the question I get a lot is, should I be advertising on Walmart.com? Should I be using Target Plus? Like, these are things that come up all the time. Or is it just a money grab? And this is where incrementality comes in. Yeah. I would love to spend the money, but am I going to get it back or not? Or is this just another money grab by the retailers?
Yeah. That age-old marketer response, it depends. But I think kind of going to the subjective piece of this and just these, pulling that thread a little bit more is if you were to pull up like the search page for any of the retailers like that we just talked about, Amazon, Walmart, Target, eBay, Instacart, Wayfair, whatever it is, right? And you pull that search page and you ask the organization or like the person from the organization, what is something that your ideal customer is going to search for here? And you type it in and their product doesn't show up, but the competitor's product does. People would mostly say that if you had an ad there and that ad generated a sale, that was incremental, right? We weren't there before. Now we're there. We got a sale. That's incremental, right? So if you really simplified example, most people would say that. Is that true? Like, hard to say. Like, what's the threshold of proof required? And then from there, it just gets more complicated. Like, what if I'm there in the sponsored brand, but not in the sponsored product? What if I already show up organically? What if I show up organically at the bottom of the page versus the top of the page? What if I have an ad on the product detail page of my competitor? Is that more incremental or less incremental? And so that you start to just layer it on. And of course, it works slightly differently for each of these retailers. And it works way differently if you're talking about desktop versus mobile web versus app. It works different depending on the device type. If you're searching on iPad, if you're already a loyalty customer, if you're ordering with voice and other things. I mean, there's again so much complexity in this stuff. Not to mention regional implications. That if you're in one zip code, the number of algorithms that are running to determine which products should show up first because of which one's more profitable, what do they have more enough fulfillment center. I mean, all that stuff is manipulating the search experience and the shopping experience for every individual customer, depending on all this criteria that you can't affect. So it just gets infinitely more complicated beyond that simple example. And that's where you start to, again, see the arguments break down, where it's not absolute, it's not data science backed, because you can't, boil that ocean, or you can't, tell if light is a wave or a particle. I feel like it's like that level of, complexity that we just don't know the answer with absolute 100% certainty.
But then that brings in like FOMO then, right? Like you brought up, like the fear of missing out. Like, if I'm not there, am I missing something? Mm-hmm. But then in a lot of cases, we'll take like the Walmart platform for a while, where CPG, food and bev makes complete sense. People are winning there. You get it outside of that category, if you're not in a grocery cart, people just hold their breath like, hey, I feel like I should be here, so I'm spending money there, but it's not the same thought around Amazon where I know I need to spend and I can tell when I turn my spend off.
Yeah. That distribution channel makes there's latency and other fail points, in that daisy chain of how a product is listed and sold, versus how the brand manufacturer can attribute success, right? So many factors, and things as well that the retailers are doing that the brand isn't in control of because the retailer has, that interest in selling the product too. So yeah, just infinite number of layers of complexity there. But I think that's where, our core on this, as opposed to playing the FOMO game and trying to tell people like, you are missing out and, we've got the secret sauce, is like, you have to embrace that this is an imperfect environment for incrementality. Some of the best things that you can do is test and learn.
Right.
And you can tune out some of the noise and kind of go with some things that, again, if you were to go to a room of people and you do that simple search, you don't exist on this keyword. Now you do, like, try to bring it back to, things that I think are less complicated where possible, and just keep building on it. Keep testing, keep learning, keep trying things.
Yeah, I think one of those tests too has to be on total spend. And this is across all the platforms where, my background, I'm a chemist, right? So I think of it like activation energy. Like sometimes reactions don't start until you get them hot enough to start. And then once you do, then they start rolling. And it's almost like, sometimes when I'm talking to brands, they want to do the absolute minimum to try to give it a whirl.
Wow.
And the result is they don't get results.
Yeah.
Therefore, they turn it off. When in reality, they didn't quite spend enough to get there. And the problem is we don't know for every brand, for every product, that activation energy is different.
Yeah.
So
the great reference.
How much do you spend to get to that point where it starts moving, makes a difference? And then after that, because you're talking about algorithms, there's a couple algorithms going on. There's the product, like actual results algorithm. And there's also the algorithm that determines what ad gets shown. And so if you can get that peak and get it rolling where all of a sudden conversions are happening and people like it, then it starts rolling and there's a lot of incrementality. But again, every product, every platform has a different activation energy.
So. I love that. Yeah, I think I'm going to steal that or borrow it and properly cite, the source on it. But there is an activation energy like required with these things. I think we're in the world or the reality where through Amazon Marketing Cloud, and I need to put disclaimer, like there's data privacy sufficiency thresholds that do make it difficult. Like this is not accessible to brands that aren't hitting that activation energy required. Like to get the insights out of it. But a lot of times I think the purveyors of FOMO in this space will sort of say that the things that you can do for P&G can be done, for most advertisers. That's baloney. But what you can do from Amazon Marketing Cloud is you can get all of the advertising interactions along the path to conversion, like along the path to purchase. And you can also analyze data by cohort to start to model lifetime value and look at more elevated KPIs like subscribe and save, and understand how ad attributed interactions, impressions and clicks, views, etc., showed up in that path to purchase, that path to conversion of subscribe and save, that path to trading up, that path to cross-selling. That is actually becoming possible now. And it's I think you're hearing like excitement about it, and there is like a groundswell of solutions and ideas coming to the market that is trying to harness this new data source that Amazon is walking in to organizations and giving away for free, with the exception of Shopping Insights, which is a paid data segment. So I do think we're entering a reality in which the bar keeps raising for retailers who want their piece of the pie to be able to expose data like this. And it just so happens that Amazon being, for most brands, I'm thinking of grocery CPG in particular, is for most brands, it's a pure play retailer, right? And so it's a little bit cleaner an ecosystem with a much better owned and operated publisher footprint. So they have more touch points, and they've been super strategic on their on that part of the business. So I think they have more to bear than a Kroger who has a data clean room, more than Walmart that doesn't really have a data clean room. And I think others are going to have those soon, but a lot of the blueprint is being drawn up through Amazon, because then you can sort of model that, and a lot of retailers are following them anyway. So that's kind of what's happening in the space.
I mean, well, it's just what people are more comfortable with, right? So, I've got 4 kids, so I've got, a minivan. Like, why did I choose this Sienna, right, over the Honda was because I had a Camry before, and you get in there, it's not like one's better than the other, per se. It's just, I felt more comfortable because I had a Toyota before. And so now I'm getting in there and I'm sitting on a completely different car, but everything just kind of feels a little bit more natural. Yeah. And I think the way Walmart originally played it out was they were tweaking some different things around how the bidding was going to be structured, how many search terms or products could actually place bids. There's all these things, and people are like, no. Like,
just give it Amazon.
Just do this. It's really funny. Like, I know you want to be different than Amazon, but everybody's saying they've spent a decade figuring this out. Just follow it, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know if this is attribution error, but, Seth Dallaire, signature that he put on Instacart, when they're from Amazon ads, went to Walmart. I think there's a signature that Walmart is, yes, they're going to innovate and do their own thing, but they are going to replicate more of, the tried and true, the second price auction,
right,
et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, I think I saw an article this morning, actually, in my, my email feed, that somebody cited that the number one challenge is like the fragmentation around measurement. And I know there's going to be some material, coming from IAB. We deal with this a lot because, we sit as an API partner, like plugged in all these API, all of these retailer APIs. And so we see the idiosyncrasies between them, and we aspire for them to, like, Walmart, do negative keywords.
Yeah.
We tell you that to your face, and we tell that in the market because it's like, just do them. But at the same time, like, when you go past Amazon, you do see how each of the retailers and retail media networks are trying to do their own flavor of it. And it shows up in these different ways. And so, yeah.
It just makes it more frustrating for brands. It just makes it more frustrating.
Correct.
Right? And if it was easier to do, they'd spend more money there, which is really that conflict, right? You have all this money flowing to Amazon, all the retailers taking a step back saying, hey, we want some of that. And
sure,
we want some of that money, but we know we have to provide you a benefit. Mm-hmm. So let's just make up the benefit we want to provide you, rather than asking the brands, how do you want to work it and what's the benefit you want? And I mean, the benefit the brands want is literally what we're talking about today, is incrementality. Yeah. That's it. Help us figure it out.
Sure. And I think, like, and
that's Home Depot, that's Lowe's. Piggly Wiggly is going to have a retail media network. Like, everybody's going to have it, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Why not, right? If you don't, you probably have a lot of business. Yeah. But so I was saying, like, I think I'm an idealist at heart, and while, kids and a career that I'm in the middle of has brought me back to reality from maybe my more naive youthful days. I think it's like the activation energy example that you shared, right? Like, nobody has nearly the search volume on keyword search volume that Amazon has. So the retailers don't have the activation energy to do the things like Amazon does, like a marketing cloud, for example. Like, why would they go and spend the money on that when, like, any query that you make to, the Target data clean room, or like the Piggly Wiggly data clean room, if you have to meet like a data sufficiency threshold, like, you just wouldn't do it. So it does kind of make sense. Like, I try to see, like, the retailer's perspective on it. I try to see the retail media networks as well, who have their own kind of FOMO that they have to play. But I do think like, the industry is maturing more. There are more ways to do this. There's more tools, techniques, et cetera. And so we're all just kind of learning, growing, doing those growing pains together. And I don't know. That's how I sort of land on it. Because like these retailers, like, and really like the walled gardens, like, again, I'm riffing on a lot of like Skai, material here. Like we're the omnichannel platform for the walled gardens, for example. So like we talk about walled gardens a lot. What do walled gardens do? Well, they seed a small amount of their first party data, like from the walled garden, like out to the market, so that nobody can really truly crack the code, and like just win it. And so they kind of use their data to gain and maintain leverage, which keeps the paid media dollars flowing. So this is an interesting one. And I'd really like to get your take on this. It came up in a conversation. I was talking with a colleague, and we're talking about incrementality. One of the things in this thought leadership piece, it's in the blog article. We put some stuff in the show notes as well. And you can check out the webinar, of course, too. But one of the common ways that people try to do incrementality for retail media is they say, I'm advertising because it has an impact on organic rank, right? If I run ads, I improve my organic ranking. You were almost like alluding to this of like total sales or like total spend is like, you get to that activation energy, you get over that cliff of like, well, now I'm ranking number one, or now I'm, bestseller badge, or whatever, your example is. And so a lot of people in the space are trying to affect organic rank with ads. So my point, or kind of where I'm going with this, is I can't think of a single time when a retailer, formally said, you're going to improve your organic rank with this ad. And like, it just kind of, I don't know, for some reason that stood out to me in this conversation of like, this is what a lot of people in the industry, these user personas I was talking about, right? Like improving organic rank is my definition of incrementality. That's my subjective definition of incrementality. And of course we can measure this through scraping, things like average organic rank. What's your position on you could, all these companies that track this stuff. So I'm advertising because it improves my organic rank. No retailer has ever gone on record and said that. What they're doing is they're like happy to let the market, in their, with their FOMO and their desire for incrementality, sort of throw money at trying to affect organic ranking and never really being able to pin it down. And so I don't know, that just kind of struck me of like, did anybody really grapple with that? Like, cause no retailer's ever said like, it just works. I think it works sometimes, but
no, but I mean, I think that's where we get to the, I did an episode Back to the Basics, which is if you get your detail on Amazon, if we isolate it to Amazon, but I think it's pretty much every platform out there. If you get your detail page up to snuff, right? Like you've really got it nailed down. And if you have an ad that people click through and you've got a great detail page, they're more likely to buy. And therefore, if they're more likely to buy, then you've got a conversion from that ad. And my whole thing is Amazon wants to put in front of you, not the best product, but the thing you're most likely to buy based on all your previous purchases and search history. What are you most likely to buy? And something just adjacent in an ad. So they're going to get you to do it. And so if they can get an ad where you click through and you land on that product and you buy it, Amazon's like, yes, I want to do that over and over again. Yeah. So it boosts organic search ranking, but it also boosts the algorithm that shows that ad, because if they show an ad and somebody clicks on it and buys, double whammy, and they can keep doing that over. And so it does affect organic search. But what I thought was interesting is when we think about incrementality, all the finance people are looking at, and all the sales people and even marketing, a lot of times are looking at, did sales go up? Not at one of the indicators which you mentioned, which is organic search ranking, right? Which is, now naturally those two things should go hand in hand. But if you focus on something different, right? The focus isn't just on the sale, but the focus is on organic search ranking.
Yeah.
You'll be thinking about it different than other people are, and therefore you'll have different results than most people get.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, yeah, I agree. And I think it's it's interesting because like, I remember putting like, I think either copying and pasting or replicating like, the pie chart of how the A9 algorithm works. Like it weights this much of this and offsite traffic that and adds this and stuff. And I think the reality is that if you were to look at any given keyword, it's not like if I spend enough, I'm going to rank better organically, right? Like even like you kind of, your precursor was like, if you have a really good detail page, and it's like, well, what if they're all really good detail pages? And then it's, okay, that's reviews and ratings. And what if they all have great reviews and ratings? Well, what if it's like the images? What if they all have, so like, again, like it's not just this one-to-one relationship between advertising and organic rank. There are many other factors, and it's those other factors that contaminates data. Like if you're a data scientist and that's your way of validating and proving things, you're going to say there's contamination, there's lack of control, because for, what we're scraping, like to measure and track organic rank, we're doing that from like one, maybe a few different zip codes, like proxy, IPs, and we're scraping that. But for the majority of customers, they see a different interaction. Oh, and by the way, we're not even scraping mobile. We're not even scraping, mobile app. So like, you're kind of like already dealing with flawed data to begin with. And I think that's where what I really try to do with this exercise, like the thought leadership piece, was try to run circles around each of the KPIs within each of the user personas, and kind of like battle test these different approaches with the data scientists in particular. And that's like, I'm not doing this work day in, day out like I was when I was running an agency and I had insights from my clients and my work and stuff, but I got access. And so with my access, I talked to some of the best customers that we have, like really savvy folks. I talked to data scientists. I talked to the product people. I talked to the publishers. I talked to companies, that do this and it was really fascinating to kind of hear the things played back and boil it down. And so I'd love to, maybe at some point there's like a panel where like we could do another one of these where we've got like a couple different voices and, we can play that out. But I think we should bring on a whole slew of people. Yeah, I mean, you've got the best network, so...
You even brought up, we talked about the complexity is, earlier you've been talking about, is product available? Which a lot of times when we're doing a search or even looking at it, we're doing at it from our own local zip code, which if product's not available, especially all the consolidation around Amazon warehouse and a lot of people going to direct fulfillment, right, to skirt all the inventory issues or new product launch issues or anything like that. They're trying to ship it on their own. Well, if you don't have, that's why I've had Corey from DaVinci Micro Fulfillment on like 3 times. Because if you can go to a 3PL, but if they only have one location, it's not even showing up at the other side of the country. So you can do all the advertising spend you want, and you're like, well, it's nothing's going up. Well, yeah, because you're not advertising half the country because you don't have inventory there because you went direct fulfillment.
And there's no geo-targeting in sponsored ads. So like, you can't do the things that you should be able to do for this stuff. You can't, actually have true A/B. Amazon and these publishers, they don't even have like landing page variants. They don't even have ad copy variants. The sponsored product ad is just what's on the detail page. So let's say that I sell headphones, and let's say that they're wireless, and let's say that they're Bluetooth wireless headphones. Okay, I can't actually change the title in my ad for like Bluetooth headphones when I want to advertise on the Bluetooth headphones keyword, and then a different ad when I advertise on wireless headphones for the same ASIN. I can't run 2 different ad copies with 2 different landing pages for output. Like, we are crazy that we're talking about like boiling the ocean with iROAS and, new to brand, customer lifetime value, multi-touch. It's like, we can't even do the most simple things. And so I just find that kind of amusing when we're at these forums of like, just think about it, guys. And then the zip codes, like, it's just DMAs. You can't.
Actually, I'd love to know like what you're most excited about.
We are doing some product holdout testing, and so it takes holdout testing, which is kind of like the most tried and true way to run an incrementality test. It's data science backed, and what you do is you analyze data and you look for correlation coefficients between a bunch of different variables, and then you define the test group and the control group. And what you do is you either reduce spend or you go dark, which is what typically a holdout means. on a specific set of products, and you do that for a period of time to get a statistical significance, like confidence level on your test. And this product holdout testing, like we're working on this. We're doing this with cool different data sources, and I think that is going to have some more authoritative, credible studies on the impact of retail media on things like total sales and other KPIs as well. So I am really excited about that. This isn't like a GA, everybody available, like sign up on my website. Here's a landing page. We're talking about that activation energy. It's not small. But I'm really excited about this. And I think that while it's not going to be right for everybody, the learnings that we'll get from a small number of clients that we're working with closely on it, I think that's going to provide some insight. Like we had a question that funneled through us from one of our agency clients. Their end client was like, they're trying to convince the sales leader in their organization, right? Sales, marketing, there's different teams, right? They're trying to convince the sales leader that retail media isn't a cost center, it's a growth center, right? And so I think studies like this, because they're largely absent from the publishers, or they're so biased, like nobody trusts them. I actually think we could produce a pretty cool, white paper on it from some product holdout testing. And I think we have the integrity core value and sort of like the respecting the market that we haven't played in the FOMO game. So people are going to look at that maybe more credibly than, the sizzle reel that, an agency put out or another point solution API partner put out. So I'm excited about that and working on that project right now. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
Awesome. Any questions you have for me?
Man,
I'm picking your brain this whole time.
Man, you're the best. I always enjoy our chats, whether they're the BWG calls or just us
hacking through life, family vacations.
Right, indeed. So definitely fun doing this, and I think it'd be like we said, a good panel. I know we'll be at some of the same events and stuff later this year.
Yeah, I think we have 40 dinners planned for the rest of the year here. It's pretty crazy. We'll be out at eTail East, which is coming up. We have a couple dinners in New York City, we have a bunch in New York, but across the U.S. So, but Kevin, hey, thanks so much for your time today. This has been an absolute blast. Again, we'll put together a follow-up one. We'll put a whole panel together. Maybe Pat the Purchase Institute will want to jump on here as well. But with that, we're going to wrap up this episode of the Digital Deep Dive. Thanks, everybody, for listening in.